you give it away? Did you give it away for free?
I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. This evening we are bringing to you another album review, Andrew Bird's Break It Yourself. This is Andrew Bird's 6th solo effort. Now, there's a lot of just hearsay about that crap because he did, he had Andrew Bird's Bowl of Fire and he did a bunch of albums with that, and then he started and kind of did his own thing with Weather Systems.
Yeah, he's gotten his hands in everything, and it's hard to say exactly what was just his and what was collaborative. And
yeah, in case you're living under an indie rock and you don't know who Andrew Bird is, he's a multi-instrumentalist. He's got an excellent, I think he's a professionally trained violinist, and he plays many different forms with the violin. Does a lot of really cool things, a lot of looping and sampling of his own violin parts. We've actually had the privilege of seeing Andrew Bird live, which was a very good show.
Yeah, it was great.
And he's also a very good whistler. I don't know, can you be professionally trained as a whistler?
I don't know who would train you in that.
I can't do it. I can't even whistle, to tell you the truth. I cannot whistle. You now know something about me. On top of that, he has a great singing voice. And really, he writes a lot of very progressive indie rock music. And he plays guitar. There's guitars and other instruments in there. But really, it's centered around his vocals, whistling, and violin playing abilities. Andrew Bird, I've heard, has been compared to Radiohead at times. But it's definitely a whole... It's a whole... I can't really compare it.
I don't really see that.
No, me either. I think it's just a whole level of just indie music that's just Andrew Bird. It's very heady, and one thing about Andrew Bird that you have to be cognizant of when you listen to him, any of his stuff, is his attention to mood and lyrics. And those two really interplay a lot in his music. Now, on Break It Yourself, I personally think that it's kind of a bit of a departure from the previous two Andrew Bird albums of official records of Noble Beast and then 2007's Armchair Apocrypha, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. I absolutely adore that album. And this album, Tom, I mean, what would you say he's doing differently on this one?
Well, it sounds more mature, but I hate to use that word because in a way I almost mean it as a bad thing. I feel like he's almost mellowed out a little too much. One of the things that's made his past release so engaging for me are the random songs that just have bursts of energy in them. And this doesn't have quite as much of that.
There's not as much dynamic contrast here.
Exactly. It stays pretty safe, kind of in that middle range of energy and mood, and it just kind of hovers there for most of the album. I mean, there are spots where it picks up a little bit, but rarely for entire tracks, and it still just doesn't really take it up a notch as much as I would want. And when you combine that with the fact that this is a long album, I think it's about an hour, maybe a little over an hour.
Some longer tracks.
14 tracks. I mean, there are a couple shorter transitional tracks, but I mean, you've got one 8-minute beast in here, and many of them over 4 and 5 minutes long. I feel like it drags out. It's one of those albums where it's long and it feels even longer than it is. And so that's it's a bad thing to me.
It's working against it.
Yeah, it really is. But at the same time, like, I can't help but love this just because Andrew Bird has such a calming, soothing sound. He's got a style all of his own, and he is just a brilliant instrumentalist and writer when it comes to the instrumental compositions.
And as far as Andrew Bird album goes, I think since Weather Systems came out, and then you have Mysterious Production of Eggs, Armchair Apocrypha, Noble Beast, and now this. I think this is the weakest of those of the five.
I'd agree with that.
And the reason is that all those things that Tom just pointed out that are such great qualities about Andrew Bird, they aren't as strong on this album in comparison to all of those. So just judging on other Andrew Bird records, which really is not something that we like to do at Velocities in Music, and keep in mind that when we score this, it's scored in comparison not to other Andrew Bird records, but to all the other music that's out right now, what we're listening to on a regular basis. And while he's able to create these really good songs with these really really beautiful instrumentation, it's not as good as some of his other work. It's just not up to par for him. And dynamic contrast is just not here. You'll have tracks on this album, on Break It Yourself, that just establish, and then they kind of just go on for a few minutes and then just stop. There's not a lot of songwriting that goes into it. There's not a lot of changes in structure or a lot of change in dynamics, and that's something that's really uncommon for Andrew Bird, even on his prior album, which was much quieter. Noble Beast was much quieter than his other solo records, and it's it doesn't have that contrast there that you need to keep the listener involved. Now, personally, I think I like this less than you, and that's saying something, guys, because I am a huge Andrew Bird fan.
It's funny because I got you into Andrew Bird.
Right.
I was like, I like this guy. He's pretty good. I think you'll like him, Jake. And then Jake like loved him.
Oh man,
likes him way more than I do.
I
now.
just
It's funny.
obsessed. Armchair Apocrypha. I mean,
You
I
would
just
not stop listening
no,
to that album.
and I never
back,
will.
Back in the day.
Now this album, I can tell everyone I will stop listening to. I feel like there's some really strong tracks on here. Tom and I picked nearly all of them.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we did. We picked all the good tracks. The only other one that I might pick is the intro track.
Yeah,
but
I like
even
that one
then,
too.
it's a little bit drawn out and long. So check out our track picks down there. But other than that, I feel like there's some filler songs here.
Yeah.
And that hurts me as an Andrew Bird fan. I'm hurt by that. And not to mention that there's some album structure problems. I absolutely hate, the last track, Bells, is an instrumental with bells.
Yeah.
And the track before that is Hole in the Ocean Floor, the beast, the noble beast that Tom mentioned before. And it's an 8-minute track. So the last 11 and a half minutes of this album essentially just kind of drag on. That whenever you have that, it puts a pressure on the listener to turn the album off early.
Yeah.
That kind of goes against the whole album concept.
I always have trouble geting through that last bit.
Oh,
I
me
really
too.
do.
Me too. So to me, that kind of works the score down. So I think, Tom, I'm going to settle at a 68 on this one.
I'm going to go 70, and, that's still a good score, and I feel like I had mostly bad things to say, but I just kind of wanted to explain that while those were the aspects that disappointed me, I still did like this album overall. I enjoyed listening to it, mostly just for the mood, the sounds. I still think he pulled something off there, but he could have done better.
Yeah, and just the level of just instrumental ability, the originality, just when he does hit, when those good tracks are that good, that really brings the score up. What would normally be a disjointed album for me that I would score in the upper 50s, because it's Andrew Bird and he's doing what Andrew Bird does, at least part of the time, brings that score up. So overall, 69 from us. I think that's a fair score for this album. That is kind of subpar for Andrew Bird, because this guy's just bowling, strikes all the way.
Yeah.
And until now, he only knocked down 9 pins this time. What did you guys think about Break It Yourself? Did you think that he broke it himself, or do you like this album? Let us know at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Also, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, because that's where we do our talking with our fans. You guys are a huge part of VIMTV. Thank you for participating. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
How do we know who's projecting is real?